In my role as Nefesh B Nefesh, as you can imagine, I am contacted throughout the year by many, many organizations who say, we have this concept which has never been done before. You're going to love it. It's going to be for your olim. We're going to be able to speak and educate and train them. We want to partner with you. And I get it over and over and over and over again. And the truth is, most of them I nix, because it's a pipe dream. They don't have facts on the ground. They don't have the exploration that they needed to do in order to make it realistic for me. And they don't address the needs that I'm looking for in terms of who I want to align with as being someone in the world of chinuch. When Ari approached me and he talked about the concept of Arzei Levanon and what's happening with Yeshivas Arzei, and I went through the website and I heard from Frederick speak, I said, I'm willing to sign on to this. Not as Nefesh B Nefesh, I'm willing to sign on as the curriculum person to be part of this enterprise. Because what I've seen put into place, which is so unique and so not the focus of many other mosdot, especially in the Haredi world, is the idea of really laying the tashtit, laying the foundations for what we're going to give our kids. And I'm saying our kids because if you're in personal contact with the men sitting up here, it's ours. Everything is ours. It's not your boys, our yeshiva. It's our yeshiva. It's our boys. I'm a consultant on the outside, and I'm brought into this ours. It is ours. Your children are our children. What concerns you concerns us. We're building this together. We're a community putting the school on the map. And so we looked at what our children need and what the focus is going to be for our community. What has gone into place is unbelievable. To have a first-year Rebbe sign on, thinking already about what he's going to be doing in 6-7 months from now with our children, it's unprecedented. I'm telling you, it's unprecedented. To have a Vada Rabbanim who come and sit and support and show up these meetings is unprecedented. It just doesn't happen. And so I think you can feel confident when you leave tonight, whether this is the right choice for your child or it's not the right choice for your child. Examining this yeshiva and the place where you're considering to put your children is a good choice. It's a solid choice. Being here tonight and saying, I'm going to consider this yeshiva makes sense because the people here are logical, they're planned, and they're focused. And that's what we want for our children, and that's what we want for our yeshiva. What I want to talk tonight in the time that we have is why is it that we're not offering a Bagrut and what's happening in the trends. Now really, Chasdei Hashem, B'tziyata Shmaya, because I work with all spectrums of schools, now is the time to go through all the alonim, the Shabbat papers, to see where registrations are, more for the Shiva Tichon. I just want to give you 3 examples from 3 different alonim. First, the most poignant, is this one. It says, Shvat Fanad Le'umit. And it says, we mazmanim etchem letzaref le'achat mechamisha ha'yeshivot ha'ktanot ha'le'umit. What does that mean? There are now 5. And this is really the 5th. It just opened. There used to be 4. This is the 5th one in Malay Chever. The Dati Leumi world is saying, we want Yeshiva Ketana. The Dati Leumi world. And here's the 3rd one, Yeshiva B'nei Tzvi Beit El Yeshiva Ketana. Okay, I just went through 3 this Shabbat just looking. What's happening? The Dati Leumi world, which traditionally had 4 Yeshiva Ketanot that I work with, and now has Malay Chever as the 5th, is saying it makes sense. It makes sense to take our kids, if we feel that Torah is the value for our homes, our children, our community, and instill in them Torah. 3 years focused without the other, I won't say unnecessary, but with the other topics that take our kids away from Torah. And in the 4th year, for most of these models, we'll focus on what's called Hashtamat Bagrut, completing the Bagrut. So it's not just the Haredi world. This idea of Yeshiva Ketana, this idea of focused learning, this idea of putting Limudei Chol on the side is not just the Haredi world anymore. It's the Dati Leumi world. 5 new yeshivot that are doing that in the Dati Leumi world. So I think you're on the right track. I think what we're doing makes sense, and it's where the country in itself is going. And I say the country because I was invited to a diyun to a committee meeting in the Knesset about a month ago. Part of Shai Peron, who's Sar Chinuch, part of his vision is really revamping the overall education system, certainly the Haredi system, and with a nekuda on Bagrut. The people who were invited to this Va'ada were people who were involved in chinuch on some level. I was invited because I represent the Olim Chadashim, and I wanted to have some sort of presence in terms of what I need for Art Tzibor. What came out of the meeting, and you had everyone there. You had the Migzar Aravi, the Arab world was there. You had the Migzar Yisraeli was there. You had Chiloni Dati. You had Chinuch Miyuchad. You had people who were coming from all kind of spectrums of we want technology and we want more academics and we want more sports and we want the performing arts. Everyone in that Va'ada, we're talking about 70 to 80 people sitting in that room, agreed the Bagrut needs to be changed. To what extent? Trimmed down, cut off, and put on the side. 4 areas were left. Everyone in that room agreed. 4 areas. What were they? What were the 4 areas? Math, English, technology.
Reading, right? Ivrit.
You're a bunch of Anglos. Ivrit. Okay? That was the 4 areas that everyone agreed. Ivrit, English, math, technology. Take everything else, put it on the side. Now what we have to work on is to the extent how many nekudot and how it's going to be offered and blah, blah, blah. But that was clear. What an amazing thing. You had a room full of educators, most of them in Misrad Chinuch, saying, scrap it. We see we don't need it anymore. And that's where Arzei Levanon came in and said, you know what? So why are we going against the tide? Let's go with the tide and do what our children need. What's essential for our children? As Ari said, I'm not talking about Netzach Yehuda, okay, which was called Nachal Haredi. We don't use that term anymore. So Netzach Yehuda has educational opportunities. We're not going to talk about that tonight. I'm obviously not talking about the option of Yeshiva Gedolah. You don't need me to talk about that. There are 2 other options that we're going to talk about tonight that are important for our children to know and for you as our parents to understand where you want to direct your kids. The first is Hashlamat Bagrut. Okay, what's Hashlamat?
Completion.
To complete, okay? To complete the Bagrut. There are 3 main centers for Hashlamat Bagrut. Now you have different options how you want to do Hashlamat Bagrut. One of the ways is you go to one of the centers. It's a course your children learn, and you decide if you want to go that route in terms of having your child sit in a classroom. It's an environment where they're going to be mashlim their Bagrut. Many people do it. It's an option. Another option, and it sounds a little bit intimidating, but it's doable, and I'm telling you it is doable, is for your child to learn it on their own. Okay? There are books that you get. There's a whole sequence of how you go through Hashlamat Bagrut. You can't just say, okay, I decide I'm a free agent, I'm going to do my own Bagrut. You can't do that. Okay, there's a series of things you go to. You're connected to a school. But the child is able to get the textbooks, learn the material, register, and take the Bagrut test on their own. Whether it's going to be a 3-point Bagrut or 4-point Bagrut or 5-point Bagrut, we're going to sit with you. That's part of our commitment to you as our parents to say we're going to help you through this process. You're not going to be out there in left field deciding how the heck am I supposed to tackle this. We're going to help you tackle this. We're going to help you decide what makes the best sense for the child. 3-point, 4-point, 5-point Bagruts. The other is that you have tutors. It's an expensive option. I'm telling you it's expensive. But if you feel that your child is not as motivated, if you feel a little less secure as parents, and I understand that insecurity, and you want a teacher to help you focus, that's another route to go. And obviously you would take a teacher who is in that subject area. 3 options. You have the Hashlamat courses, you have independent study, and you have taking on a tutor, and obviously within the tutor you can also do group tutoring. It's always cheaper. When you have your Hashlamat Bagrut, okay, you have Yeshiva Gedolah and Hashlamat Erev, it is more mukubal. The more that I'm hearing about these programs, the more I'm hearing Rosh Yeshivot, and I can't say I've talked to 50 of them, I haven't. But the ones that I've spoken to have said, yes, we understand this is a trend in the country. We understand this is where our boys are going. And they allow them to complete Bagriot after third Seder. Some of them will let them do it Bein HaSidurim. Some of them, or depending on the yeshiva, will let them do it as part of third Seder. Meaning if the boys commit to going to first, second Seder, they'll let them do third Seder. And by the way, from the Misrad HaChinuch's point of view and Sahal's point of view, that is enough to have a decoy. Meaning you have an exemption, not an exemption, you have a postponement from the army. If you're having 2 Sidurim in Yeshiva Gedolah, the third one can be Hashlemat Bagrut. Okay, that is Mekubal, as well as learning in the different centers. There's a new program in Open Yeshivat Malrot, which is in Beit Shemesh, has a 2-year Bagrut program for, they call it Yotzei Yeshiva Ketana. That's another option, in a more formal setting, in a structured school. I just put 3, there are more. Kemach, many of you may have heard of Kemach. We're going to talk again about Kemach because they are just unbelievable. Their budget, I think the director told me it's about $2.5 million currently. They see as their mandate to help any avrech or any bachur yeshiva to reach their goal. So I said, okay, so they're going to, the regular 60 different mosdot that are around the country. And they said, no. We're funding people in law school. We're funding people in medical school. We're funding people who are going for PhDs in psychology, who learned at Panovich, who learned at the Mir, who learned at all these places where you would never suspect. We're funding them. And it's mekubal, and they're not sugbet, and they're getting shidduchim, and the parents are happy, and everything is really kedat ukdin. It's the trend. It's where the Olam HaCharedi is going. Slowly, but confidently. In terms of Hashlemat Bagrut, those are the facts. That's your first choice. There's another option. Now you've heard about the Merchaz Haredi, and you've heard about the Mechala Haredi, and you've heard about the Machon Hakshara Lecharedim. These places all are burgeoning. These places are expanding. I, for one, work in Beit Ofer, in Givat Shaul. In our building, we have the Haksharat Haredim, the Technologia, where they teach people to be engineers on construction. They also teach them accounting. They have a women's program, which isn't ours, but you should know there's a women's program in the morning and the men's program in the afternoon. You have Dati Leumi, you have Haredi, you have boys who are 18, you have men who are 43. It's the catch-all place for people to learn very specific skills. It's not the only one out there. It's not unique. It is part of a growing trend within the country. Now, one of the things that Ari asked me to explore was, well, how do we get our kids in? Okay, we need to know. Again, think of this. You have Ari asking me to explore how we get our children into these programs when the school hasn't even opened its doors. Okay? That's the type of planning they want for this yeshiva. There is no standard. There is no standard, meaning there is some sort of application process. All of them have an application process. All of them are different. It's as if you were to ask me, how can I get my child into the accounting program at Hebrew University, Tel Aviv University, Chav University, Ben Gurion, and Ariel? Well, I can't tell you that. I'm not associated with those universities, and each one of them is different. Each one of these mosdot is different. They have their own requirements. Bottom line is, we are educating our children to get into them. The education that we are mapping out for them as Arzei Levanon will get them into any of these programs. Some of them are BA programs, meaning they're going to get a Torah Rishon. Some of them are certificate programs. What's the difference? A Torah Rishon is Torah Rishon. You have your BA, you have your BS. It's a 4-year program. You're matriculated in a university. Do you get the better jobs? Sometimes. Do people look at you first? Sometimes. That also is starting to change. And I can tell you from our employment department in Nefesh B Nefesh, it's changing. A certificate program is usually a 2-year program. It gives you the training you need in order to work within the field you're looking to work. Okay? So you're going to have, we're going to see in the next slide, I just mapped out some of the more popular areas where people are studying. All those areas will get you into a job, entry level, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it's entry level. You're not going to get high positions with these certificate programs. It gets you in the door. It gets you parnasa. It gets you on the first rung of going up the ladder. And so the children are going to be able to apply to these schools and be able to succeed in these schools and use these programs without having a bagrut. Okay? They do not require bagrut. There is something called a mivchan til. And that mivchan, that test, is really looking at skills. It's not looking at reka, it's not looking at background. It's not like the bagrut, which is testing all the previous years of education. It's looking at your ability to succeed in a program that is going to challenge you mentally and emotionally to succeed that program. That's what they're looking for. Are you cut out to be able to complete this program? The growing campuses we talked about, these are just some of the places where they exist. I'm sometimes hesitant when Olim contact me and they say, we plan on making Aliyah in 2 years. We want to know about where we should live. That's my second position in the office. And I say, call me in another 18 months and we'll be able to talk about it. Because Israel is very dynamic. Israel changes. There's a lot of movement within this country. So I was a little hesitant. Ari was sort of pushing me, no, we want some very specific examples. I'm giving you specific examples. Do not take this as the end all, okay? Those are some campuses I threw out because they're some of the more established. Kiryat Ono has been around for long. B'nai Brak and the Mivchar program's been around forever. The program in Malcha and the technological park has been around for years. So I threw those out as places for you to see. But interesting enough, Hebrew University last year opened, we call it a campus. They opened a section for Haredim in Hebrew University. Next year, who's the next university? Bar Ilan had shluchot, meaning they have subsidiaries that have that for years. Next university has a Haredi program opening next year. Haifa. Haifa is opening next year. It's the trend, guys. It's where it's happening. It's just how the country's going. More and more attention is being made to the Haredi communities because we're smart. We're trained. We're focused. And in places like Arzei Levanon, where they're giving you math, and they're giving you English, and they're giving you Ivrit, you're even a better candidate. Because you're coming in with the skills, they don't have to retrain you. Hebrew U, once they saw what happened last year, in their Mechina program, opened up for the Charedim a Bagrut Hashlama. Because they saw that the boys were coming with skills that was going to take them too long, they had to sort of beef up the program. Our kids aren't going to need that. Our kids are going to be able to really succeed with much less preparation than other yeshiva ketanot. Different programs that exist. I just want to see some of the professions. Okay, we're not talking about very basic things. We're talking about things like engineering. We're talking about nursing, computer science, electronics. This is the wave of the world. This is where everything is going in terms of business opportunities, and our children are going to be forefront with the capabilities to be able to get those positions. So is Bagrut an issue for us? Not anymore. Really not anymore. In the past 3, 4, 5 years, not anymore. It's not unusual for children to go to Yeshiva Ketana, Yeshiva Gedolah. By the way, everyone will have to go to Yeshiva Gedolah. I have not yet found a program that accepts anyone straight from Yeshiva Ketana. They only accept 18 and older. So the kids can't go straight from Yeshiva Ketana into any of these programs. There's a year of either Yeshiva Gedolah or Hashlamat Bagrut, one of those two, before they can get into any of the programs. But really, you want to talk about opportunities for our boys? There it is. And it's only growing. In terms of confidence about whether this yeshiva makes sense or not, I can say it makes sense to me. What I see on paper, what I see in front of you, the discussions we've had, it makes sense to me. You're going to have to work it out as a family. But if the question comes up, am I doing a disservice to my child because I'm sending them to yeshiva Ketana that is non-bagrut? I'm confident in saying no, and even more confident in saying that it will be a bigger no in another 3 or 4 years from now. Hatzlacha with your decisions.